So starting off, the panic meter would be 1 to 10. Is there a panic meter kind of with this scenario right now that we have with a deficit, looking at a deficit this year, next year, and the year after that?
You know, the forecast is designed to be an indicator, and so it tells us kind of how we're doing right now, and how we think we're going to be doing going forward based on the economy. So as an indicator, I think it's pointing out some things that we need to address. We've got to align our expenses with our revenue, which is kind of basic. I think we're going to have to watch very closely the impacts we see maybe nationally in terms of the economy. I mean, I think there's obviously some hesitancy in terms of spending in a number of different areas. Sales tax, the airport, hotel occupancy tax are leading indicators like commercial and residential permits. So this is why we do it, is to be an early indicator and get ourselves prepared for that budget process.
Why did these numbers come out less than projected?
So two primary reasons. One, we've not seen sales tax growth as robust as we believed. We assumed about a little over 3% increase in sales tax receipts this year. We're about 2%, so we're behind a bit. And I think that goes back to consumer confidence and maybe people holding on to their money a little bit longer before they spend. And then secondly, I think the appraisal district has continued to see people appealing tax values and applying for the exemptions that they're qualified for. That moved at record levels last spring. I think it's continuing to folks are affording themselves the ability to take advantage of those things that they're eligible for. So it's having some impact on our tax receipts. I mean, I believe that's probably the new norm, and that's why in the forecast you saw that we're assuming practically no growth in taxable value, and probably more a sign of what we're going to be dealing with, at least in the near term. Those two revenue sources are major revenue sources and key drivers. You know, goes back, Matt, into us making sure that we keep our expenses aligned with what we're taking in.
When you're talking about budget, you either raise the revenues or you lower the spending. So when people hear that you're maybe 2 years from now you're $148 million in the hole, that's a lot of cuts. What would you say to people who are concerned that some services around the city or, jobs around the city might be lost because of this zero-based budgeting and because of cutting back and tightening the belt?
Well, I think those are two different things. I would say that nobody needs to panic yet. This is a forecast. I think we need to slow our spending. I think we need to be very critical. I think the council goal-setting session in June will be very important for that. And we'll have a little bit more information. I think part of this is also moving forward is that council conversation about priorities and where we're going to spend is tantamount and paramount to how we spend our money and the services that we look at. So, again, this is not the budget. I think it's an early indicator. I think we need to take it seriously. I am. And we start making adjustments now. The thing about the forecast is the sooner you deal with some of those issues, the better off you are as you look down the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. So the next time we talk to the council at the end of June, and that'll be with the new mayor and the full council, we'll have better information. We'll be a little bit more precise. I do think we will probably have to make strategic realignments and reallocations this fiscal year because our revenue right now, the way we're projecting, our revenue is growing at a lower rate than our expenses. And so that can't go on for too long.
When you have a new council and a new mayor, everyone has new priorities. How do you kind of deal with that in the middle of a budget session and get everyone together to look at the problem, know what the problem is, and then adjust accordingly?
You deal with it in the middle of it, and you move along, right? So we're just starting the budget process, and that transition is going to happen, and we make sure that we're good listeners and prepared for the new next mayor and council. we have to balance our budget, and by policy, we balance 2 years' worth of budget. So we have a lot of hard work this summer. But undoubtedly, I'm looking forward to that conversation, that first conversation, that goal-setting conversation with the new mayor and the city council, so we can figure out how to keep things aligned.
There's a big project that you guys want to get done in downtown San Antonio, and obviously that's going to take a lot of money. When somebody looks at this and says, well, the budget already is kind of in flux, and there's a $4 billion project that is potentially going to happen downtown, what should the public think of putting more money towards that project when there's already things that might have to be cut around the city?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that really goes back to the type of revenue or funds that may go towards that. For example, the hotel occupancy tax can only go towards those types of functions like the construction of a convention center. We can't use the hotel occupancy tax to pay police officers or operate libraries. But I think we need to be really sensitive to the fact that what we do and how we get input from the community and ultimately the mayor and the council has to be balanced and reasonable. Those things are those projects are potential investments in economic development, and we still have a lot of work to do in those areas. So we'll be dealing certainly with this upcoming annual budget, way before we're dealing with those issues.
Last thing, when revenues fall short, the easy thing is to try and get more revenue. So could constituents maybe look at increases in their property taxes or anything like that? Is that on the table for this budget session?
No, and you heard me kind of talk about that with the council. The forecast assumes no changes in property taxes or changes in the tax rate or increases in fees. And frankly, what part of the recommendation that we laid out to the council was that we're going to have to control our spending. Mm-hmm. I think you heard the council say the same thing. And so the first option is always going to be to make sure that we try to align that spending with our revenue.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Nope.
Appreciate it.